Welcome to this week's edition of On the Money with Secure Money, brought to you by Brian Quaranta of Secure Money Advisors. I'm Rebecca Powers. Welcome to our new viewers and hello to our longtime viewers. Good to see you, Brian.
Good to see you, Rebecca, as always.
Yes. All right, we have a lot to talk about.
We do have a lot to talk about today.
Let's talk about how retirement has changed. I'm in my mid-50s, and so many of you in the retirement age you can probably think of drastic changes in the world since you were a teenager. Retirement is no different. What are the big changes you've seen, and how are you adjusting?
Do you remember Kirby vacuum cleaners?
I do.
Right?
We had one. We paid $100 a month for ours.
Did you?
They did like a mortgage on a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, that was a big deal, right?
And the guy came to our door.
Yes. Well, my grandfather had a Kirby store.
Really?
And he would service those vacuums. He worked for Kirby for a long time. But when he retired, my grandmother and him, they did a lot. My grandfather always had a new car. They would travel everywhere. But when he retired from Kirby, he had a pension.
Yeah.
He had a Social Security between me and my grandmother and him. So they had plenty of income coming in to enjoy retirement. There was a retirement party for him.
Right.
But that's not really happening today.
Right.
You know, you look at retirement 30, 40, 50 years ago, that was the day of, I knew when I was going to retire, you probably were going to get a gold watch or some type of gift, right?
And you knew what your income was going to be.
You knew what your income was going to be. If you had some extra money that you saved, you probably were not rolling the dice and gambling with it in the stock market. You probably were going down to the local bank and buying a CD, paying, you know, maybe 10 to 15%. Oh, so
wow.
Things were easy when it came to retirement because there were places to put money and tools that provided income and also additional interest without risk, like a CD. I mean, my grandfather, could you imagine getting a CD paying 10 to 15% today?
No.
I mean, if you got an extra $200,000 laying around and you're getting 10%, that's an extra $20,000 a year in income without ever touching your principal.
Amazing. So
it was a lot simpler. Today, what's happening is people obviously are working for multiple employers. You don't see people working 30, 40 years for one company anymore. You know, everybody's still getting a Social Security check, but I mean, in 2035, I believe, you know, it says right on your Social Security statement that Social Security will start paying more out in benefits than they receive in taxes. So we know Social Security is going to be in the red come 2035. But the grand experiment, nobody knows how this is going to work out, is that we replaced guaranteed sources of income like a pension with 401k plans, 403b plans, 457 plans. These are plans that if you're watching today, you probably have one, right? Every time you make a contribution, your employer probably makes a contribution on your behalf. And your goal is to try to build that pile of money up to the biggest pile it can get so that when you retire, you have enough money to retire. But what does that even mean?
Right.
What does it even mean to have enough money? Because if you're going to need to draw income from that, how long is it going to last?
Right.
Are you going to run out of money? And these are the big concerns that we see from people and hear from people all the time. Can I retire? Am I going to run out of money? You know, can I afford to be taking this kind of risk? So these are the things that we have to plan for. And we want to build a plan so that it gives us peace of mind and security.
Why do you think Congress did that in the very late 70s, completely get rid of pensions? For most, about 5% of us still have pensions, like state workers.
Yeah.
Why did they do that? What do you think they thought? How would it improve?
Well, look, you know, pensions are not perfect either. There's a lot of people that had pensions that don't have them anymore because
company goes insolvent.
I mean, you know, you could go to the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation's website, which is the PBGC, and you can see all the pensions that have been, that have failed, that have become insolvent, because the PBGC actually will take over those pensions and pay, pennies on the dollar for what they were supposed to get. So, and also, typically, if you left a company, you couldn't take the pension with you. So if you were there for, let's say, 20 years and you wanted to switch jobs, it was the golden handcuffs.
So you would just lose it?
You could just lose your pension. So if you weren't here for 30 years, you'd lose your pension. So the idea of the 401k, and these retirement accounts were to give people a lot more autonomy over their retirement. So they weren't handcuffed to one specific company. So if they didn't like their employer, they just leave and roll their 401k to another employer's plan. So I get it in theory.
The reasoning.
I get in reason why we wanted to have those options. What I wish would have taken place is that we would have still had an option for a private pension, meaning maybe we didn't have to do pensions directly through the company, but maybe there was a way that we could do private pensions on our own, so that at least in your years of saving and accumulating money, you were putting money in a place that at least would generate some income without ever running out of money. The concern with the 401k is, how long is it going to last?
And the other big concern, I think, why we're in the state we're in now is because we never did a mass education about what to do with it, right? Your pension's gone, here's your 401k, good luck.
Yeah, well, and that still is the problem.
Yeah.
And speaking of
that's why we do this show.
Yeah, well, and speaking of education, that's one, why we do the show. And it's also why I wrote Right Track Your Retirement, because I felt that in today's marketplace, people are very confused about what to do. They're not sure what action to take. They're not sure what their plan should be made up of. In my book, Right Track Your Retirement, I write about 5 key areas to make your financial planning and your plan as simple as possible, which is your income strategy, your investment strategy, tax strategy, healthcare strategy, and your estate planning strategy. So these are all the things that you need to know right here in this book. And if you go to onthemoneyoffer.com, onthemoneyoffer.com, you can get a copy of my book right there. But while you're there, take advantage of our Right Track Retirement Review. It's a 45-minute review. There's no cost to you. It's absolutely free for you to come in. Nobody's going to sell you anything. Nobody's going to pressure you to do anything. It's there for you to get educated and to see where you are right now, if you're on the right track, and if you're not on the right track, what are the things that you can do to get on the right track so that you can retire when you want to retire, but most importantly, when you do retire, stay retired. So again, go to onthemoneyoffer.com, get a copy of the book. We send it out to you. We ship it to you. I pay for the shipping and handling. Call 1-888-382-1298. My team is standing by right now also to take your call and schedule a time for you to come in.
Absolutely. And stay with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about the 5 functions of a retirement plan. And if you say a retirement plan, what's that? That means you don't have one. You're probably like most Americans, but that's what we need to solve. You need a retirement plan in writing, no questions. You know exactly how much you're going to be making. It is the way you have a peaceful and happy retirement. Stay with us. I'm Rebecca Powers here with Brian Quaranta, and this is On the Money with Secure Money.
See, everybody can tell you how to invest your money. There's not a lot of people out there and a lot of firms that can teach you how to use your money. Most people will also tell you that they're scared. And the reason they're scared is because they're afraid of running out of money.
The last thing you want to do is have a really good job into your 60s, retire, and be looking for work again in your late 70s.
The average person might say, well, a good portfolio would be a good mix of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. No, 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 no. A good portfolio is all designed around the 5 key areas: income, taxes, investments, healthcare, and legacy planning.
We're not just product pickers here. What we do best here is we build retirement plans.
9 out of 10 people, when they walk through the door, would ask us, we just want to know if we're on the right track. And I always say, if you're not on the right track, when would be a good time to know it? Probably now.
People, can actually see a vision once we start to really build out their plan.
This is about you. If you're not getting what you need, and you feel that when you walk out of the advisor's office, it's time to get a second opinion. And you can't get a second opinion from the person that gave you the first opinion. The difference at Secure Money Advisors, as a fiduciary firm, we help you manage the risk, build the income, and give you the retirement you dreamed of.
All right, welcome back. As promised, we're going to talk about the 5 functions of a retirement plan. This is not your statement. This is not just a to-do list. This is an in-writing plan of every aspect of your retirement, the years, the goals, what you can expect in a big, beautiful binder. You know exactly where it is. Mine sits up on my shelf.
That's
Brian.
right. That's right.
It even says, in the case of my demise, please call. You know,
Yes.
the number's on there. Our 15-year-old daughter, Mary, knows exactly. She's even looked at it. Can I look at it?
Yeah.
She knows how much money we have, where
Right.
it is. It's an amazing, liberating thing.
Which is so important, by the way. Your daughter's 15.
Yeah.
She needs to know. The
Yeah.
more families can communicate with each other about these things, the better we're going to be overall as a society, because this is the way we can educate And this is where we can prevent mistakes being made.
And family feuds.
And family feuds, yes.
We all know someone that it destroyed their family, and it ended up being over not even much money, but feelings were already ruined.
Look, I've seen it in my 25-year career. I've seen it. Oh, we've got a great family. My sister and I are like best friends. Yep. And then there's a death and there's arguments.
Yes.
It happens. There's emotions involved.
Yes.
But yes, you know, I will tell you, you know, you talk about your binder sitting up on your shelf.
Yeah.
Right? In the world we live in today, everything is digital.
Right.
And
good point.
Yeah, everything is digital. And folks, if there is one piece of advice that I can give you, get your plan in writing, physical writing. I don't care if it has a digital copy,
right.
but make sure you have a physical copy of the plan somewhere that your family knows exactly where it is. And in that binder should be instructions of how to inherit the money. There should be instructions on what life insurance you have, what retirement accounts you have. There should be clear beneficiary statements in there. Your estate planning documents should be there. Your healthcare directives, all these things should live right in there. So that if anything happened, all your kids or your spouse needs to do is pull that out. And we're going to talk a little bit more about
yes.
these 5 functions and why it's so important to do this.
All right. So number 1, of course, the foundation of any retirement is income.
Yep.
You're retired, you're not working, but you still have bills. Number 1, identifying income.
Yeah. I know it sounds pretty easy when you say provide income, right?
Yeah.
But it's not. It's actually the most challenging thing that a retiree will have to solve for.
Right.
And here's why. Because there's multiple ways to approach income. You know, you can withdraw money from your retirement accounts that are invested in the stock market. Well, that may work. It may not work. You could have real estate income where you're getting some additional money from, but if you're renting, those places need to stay rented. I have a client that was a big commercial real estate
COVID crushed that, I bet.
Investor. And who would have ever thought
yes.
that portfolio, his real estate portfolio, would be dealing with cash flow problems right now?
Right.
He didn't anticipate that. Huge companies that were renting from him no longer rent from him.
Wow, because everyone was working from home.
Yeah, everybody's working from home. Nobody renewed their leases. So you have to have a diversified strategy for generating income.
Yeah.
And what studies have shown is that the more guaranteed income people have, right, and the less uncertain the income is. Like, for example, what do I mean by uncertain? Well, uncertain would be if I'm investing in a stock market and I'm withdrawing money, that's uncertain income because I have no idea how much I can continue to take without running out.
Right.
Unless I had some type of dividend strategy, but even dividends can change. So this is more complicated than just saying provide income,
yeah.
right? And this is why I encourage you to get with a good fiduciary planning firm that can help you build a plan. Whether you're coming in Secure Money Advisors, or you're currently working with an advisor, or you're seeking out professional help, get with a good fiduciary firm and make sure that you are being provided with a written plan. And when it comes to your income strategy, make sure that you're getting a written income strategy by year. So if it's 2023, what's the income going to look like in 2023, 2024, 2025, and so on, right?
Yes.
And then, of course, if you're married, what happens if your spouse dies? So you might be getting this much money together, but if your spouse dies, there's going to be a drop in income. And according to AARP, the average drop in income, Rebecca, for a married couple, 40%.
Wow.
That's a lot of money to lose. And then the other thing is, people don't realize that you're going to go into a single filer tax bracket. So now not only you lost your spouse and lost income, but now you're going to go into a single filing tax bracket, which means your tax bracket's going to be higher. So it's a compounding effect. And all of these things, with a good written plan, you can make all of these bad things happen on paper before they do happen.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So number 2, the most important 5 functions of your in-writing retirement plan is to have written proof.
Yeah, the written proof. That's right. And the written proof is this. What does my income look like right now? What does my income look like when my spouse dies? And what does the withdrawals do to the balance of the account over time?
Gotcha.
So as I'm withdrawing money, what impact is that having on the balance of the portfolio? And that written proof needs to involve 3 very important interest rates, which I write about in the book. One is called the spend down rate, the preservation rate, and then the legacy rate. And you've got to figure out what these interest rates are, because if you don't figure out what these rates of returns are, then you're going to probably over-project the performance of the portfolio and be overly optimistic without baking in worst-case scenarios. And now you find yourself 20 years into retirement realizing that we're going to run out of money. Right. And I will tell you, the worst day of retirement is not the day you run out. The worst day of retirement is the day you figure out you're going to run out, and there's nothing you can do to stop it.
Unbelievable. Yeah, and a lot of people, unfortunately, have been in that situation, especially if you think of years like 2008,
right,
when markets correct or you have such crashes. All right, tax plan. That is something that it is not about what your CPA does. That's kind of a history lesson of what happened in the last 12 months. A tax plan is forward tax planning. So let's explain the difference, and how do you put that in writing?
Yeah. Well, you know, I've got a really smart friend, financial advisor, Stuart Willis. And Stuart Willis said something brilliant to me one time. He said, you know, Brian, we refinance our mortgages. Why don't we refinance our taxes?
Huh.
And he was trying to get people to understand that when you're in a low tax rate environment, you should be looking to do all the tax planning that you can.
Right.
And so we are in the lowest tax environment we've seen in a very, very long time. Now, those are going to sunset, right? I believe in 2025, somewhere around there. So if you ask most people, do you think taxes are going to go up or down in the future? They think they're going to go up. So if you could get money out of your retirement accounts right now and remove them from taxable accounts and get into tax-free accounts, that's the wonderful thing about our tax code right now, is that you can move money from a taxable account to a tax-free account, and then all your future growth is tax-free. And there's not a lot of people taking advantage of this right now.
Right.
But having a good tax plan is important because it does the most important thing for a retiree. It protects your purchasing power. Because when the cost of living goes up and you haven't done tax planning, and now you've got to pay a higher tax rate on your withdrawals, you are compounding the purchasing power problem, and you're going to rapidly decrease your purchasing power if you're not looking at these effective tax planning strategies.
So inflation, too, that is another massive thing. How do you kind of put that into your formula of figuring out people's purchasing power and when you're doing their plans?
Yeah, well, look, the 100-year average on inflation is 3%, okay? And that's usually what people will use. Most financial planners are taught use 3% inflation rate. But here's what we have to realize. The question is going to be not what the 100-year average is for inflation, but what's the 20-year average or 10-year average when you're retired? Just take somebody that's retired right now. Maybe they've been retired for, you know, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
Their inflation rate's been like 8, 9%, maybe more.
Yeah.
So you've got to really look at these scenarios and really put a lot of pressure on the planning process, because you want to see how much it's going to take to make the plan break.
Absolutely. All right, the plan. Organize everything in one place.
Yeah, and this is the binder we talk about, right?
Yes.
Your financial inventory binder. So important for you to have, so simple, but so effective for your family to have this financial inventory binder. And again, this is just a simple way to organize everything from all of your income strategy, your withdrawal strategy, your tax strategy, then all of your important documents, all of your statements from your retirement account, your life insurance, your homeowner's insurance, your mortgage statement, right? All of your estate planning documents. This all needs to live in this tangible binder. Because for those of you that are going to leave your most responsible child as the primary beneficiary of your estate and make them the executor, and I know it's your smartest, most responsible child, but they are not going to like you because it is a curse to be the executor of the estate. Ask anybody that has to deal with it. So we come back, we're going to talk about one more of the 5 functions. But before we come back, don't forget, go to onthemoneyoffer.com, get a copy of my book, Right Track Your Retirement. Everything Rebecca and I are talking about, I talk about in depth in the book. But I want you to take one more step. I want you to schedule an appointment. Come in and take advantage of our Right Track Retirement Review. The appointment's absolutely free. There's no cost. It's just time out of your day. If you're on the right track, my team will let you know. And the analysis that we're going to do for you We use very powerful software to do it. It's a third-party software. It's not biased. It's looking at just specific data points to help you determine where you are and if there's any weaknesses in your current plan, your current income plan, your current tax strategy plan, your current estate strategy. So onthemoneyoffer.com, get a copy of the book, and you can schedule there, or just call 1-888-382-1298. My team is standing by to get you scheduled to come into the office.
And if you're fancy, you can even use that QR code. Just point your camera to it. It'll take you to our landing page. Stay with us more on Right Tracking Your Retirement with Brian Quaranta right after this.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. The one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to On the Money with Secure Money. I'm Rebecca Powers here with Brian Quaranta of Secure Money Advisors. The fifth thing on the list is instructing your heirs to carry out your wishes.
Yeah.
Right. It makes their lives easier, and everything you want is done. You avoid probate.
Yep.
And you have to make sure your beneficiaries stay current.
Yeah, it's so important to make sure your beneficiaries stay current because your beneficiaries are the most important part of your documents. See, your beneficiaries are so important that they override everything.
Really?
So people think that the will that they make is the one document that's going to make everything happen, but it's not.
It's not?
It's the beneficiary forms. So
the beneficiary forms would override a will?
Correct.
Wow.
Yes.
So you teach me something every week, and I thought I've heard it all from you, but now...
Yes. So...
my mind is spinning, and that's shocking, because we paid a lot of money to an attorney to do our will.
Your will. So, so whatever your beneficiary document says, that's where the money's going to go.
Okay.
So here's how important this is. So we've all known somebody that has lost their spouse.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll get remarried. And when they get remarried to their new wife or husband, typically now that new spouse becomes the primary beneficiary of the retirement account.
Okay.
Kids still stay on as contingents, right?
Right.
But the spouse, the new spouse, usually sometimes will go on as the primary. Well, here's what people do not realize. If that money is left to that new spouse, that is legally now that new spouse's money, which means that new spouse can change the beneficiaries at any time they want. And they could say, I'm not giving it to
his children, I'll put it to my children.
Which has happened.
Oh, yes.
It's happened twice in my career to not clients of mine, but people that I consulted with, and they were disinherited.
Wow.
And this is how easy
Awful.
A big mistake like that can happen, because the beneficiary document is the most important document you own. It will override the will. So in this case, if the beneficiary form said, give the money to my new spouse, but the will said, give all my money to my kids, the courts are going to say, well, what's the beneficiary form say?
Wow.
And it says new spouse, and they say, the court's going to say, well, then the money needs to go to the new spouse. And this is where you'll read all the time about people getting disinherited. And this is very important for you folks to know, because, again, we talk a lot on this show about income and investments and taxes and healthcare and estate planning, but some of the most important part of your plan will be taken care of in documents like your beneficiary forms. And there's so many other things like that that need to be handled. And that's why I tell folks, get with a good fiduciary firm that believes in providing you with a comprehensive written plan. Because if all you're doing with your advisor is speaking about the performance of your investments, and you're not looking at other things like the beneficiary documents, right, or how you're going to protect your family even from being wiped out from taxation, then we don't really have a plan in place. Because again, remember, a plan involves not only taking care of the income, but making sure you own the right investments at this point in your life, making sure you have a good tax strategy, a healthcare strategy, and an estate planning strategy. And if your advisor is not talking to you about all 5 of those key areas, I would highly recommend you get a second opinion. I don't care if it's from us or somebody else, but you definitely need to go get a second opinion. And again, go to onthemoneyoffer.com, get a copy of the book, and you can schedule to get a second opinion right there.
And you said the word fiduciary, so in the last few minutes of the show, I want to talk about the difference between a fiduciary and someone who may just be an agent or maybe a broker, which is all fine, but people need to understand the difference.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I believe in my heart that anybody working in finance today, whether you're an agent or a broker or a fiduciary, should be doing what's in the client's best interest.
Right. Should be.
Should be. As with any industry, you have bad apples. I mean, you can look at doctors, and you can, see many stories out there of, bad situations with doctors. Right. Lawyers, all professions, contractors. I mean, you can go on and on.
That's right.
But the difference between the fiduciary standard and or an agent or a broker is that the fiduciary actually is held to that higher standard by law.
And higher education.
And they're provided a higher education to understand a more in-depth planning process. That's right. So, and I'm not saying that your broker or agent doesn't know what they're doing. I'm just telling you how it works, right?
Right. That's what we want people to know, to understand.
Yeah, and that's a reason just to get a second opinion.
Right.
Right there, it's a reason to get a second opinion. So go to onthemoneyoffer.com, get a copy of the book, come in, schedule your Right Track review. Again, it's absolutely free. We'll go over the 5 key areas when you come in, and you'll get a lot out of the meeting. And my promise to you is nobody from my team's ever going to try to sell you anything. Nobody's going to press you to do anything. You can also call 1-888-382-1298. My team is standing by to take your call and get you scheduled for your Right Track review.
Yep, and here's the Right Track, your retirement book. He'll mail that to you as soon as you make that call, even pay for the shipping and handling. Thank you so much for joining us. Keep those emails and questions coming in. We love you, and we'll see you next week.